call it, a resolution, non-binding, like congratulatory resolution. I'm going to vote no on your grandmother until we pass marijuana legislation. And that's really what we need in the Senate is wild cards. I'm going to be a wild card. I'm not going to be dependable or reliable to anybody except for the constituents of the 16th district, and I'm proud of that. So that's what we need to do, leverage. I want to say one thing about gun rights for non-violent ex-felons. Not only should they be able to protect themselves after they might commit, a felony, and they serve their time, they receive their civil rights back, but after you lose your civil rights, you get your voting rights back, your right to be a public notary and to run for office. You get all your rights back except for gun rights. And the reason why that's so it's such a problem is because you can actually violate by being around somebody else with a gun, whether you know they have a gun or not. I did not even believe this when I came back to Petersburg about 2 years ago from college, and just talking to my friends and peers over the last couple of years. I corrected them incorrectly. I was incorrect, but I was correcting them. I'm like, no, you can't get in trouble by being around somebody else with a gun in their pocket and you don't know they have a gun. They were like, yes, I know people. We was riding in the car, they was riding in the car with somebody, the police pulled them over, they found the gun in somebody else's possession, and they were violated and sent back to jail. I had to look it up and research it and make sure that I can actually, this was the truth that it is. And that's why I call for automatic reinstatement of your gun rights after a certain amount of years for non-violent ex-felons. Even if you don't want to own a gun, even if you don't believe in the Second Amendment yourself, you shouldn't be at risk for being around someone else who's taking advantage of their Second Amendment. And the guy left, but I just wanted to thank him for his words. He's absolutely right. We have to look at, the baseline of things. The baseline of the problem is who is deciding what is law. When we pay attention to who we elect and stop giving incumbents a free pass to just go back and back and back and just strengthen their friendships with their donors and the lobbyists, we wouldn't be in as big of a problem. We have to seek out candidates young and who's connected to their community and will remain connected to their community. And we have to give them the support they need to, be successful in office. In office. So absolutely, we have to look at not only the, externalities and results of bad policy. We have to look at the policy makers and question, why are you there? We have to question my opponent. What do you want to do here besides, okay, I'm not finish that sentence because it's going to be something negative. It's not going to be. What are you there to do besides, commit your own crimes?
Right.
That's a good one.
So if you can hold your questions, please. There's one more topic I want to make sure we at least get to, and then we can open up for questions. So we can definitely stay over the hour time for those who can. But I want to make sure that we get to the skill development and education topic as well. We have different nonprofits as well to help with those things. Like we have Heritage United Builders here in Charlottesville, and so we look at skills trades in our public school systems, right? That's one piece that people want to address. Whether or not the SOLs should be either eliminated or changed in some way, that's one thing. And then of course you have the disparities when it comes to write-ups, expulsions of black students versus their white counterparts. There's a 5% state dropout rate. Here locally it's about half of that as far as the average dropout rate. The black graduation rate here is about 88% now. So it's 12% who, for whatever reason, do not get a diploma, whether it's failing or dropping out. So those things need to be addressed. But when it comes to education in general, whether it's skill development or whether it's just our schools, what do you plan to do from your level to make school a place where kids will want to be and help them succeed? Let's definitely not forget the diverse workforce of our educators as well.
There's a few things that go into it, and again, Before I answer that, we got folks here who've gone out and started their own businesses, and they're young folks, a lot of different perspectives on these things, and they're not something they teach in K through 12. You know, you might get a few certifications or something, but nothing at the level of what's necessary to go out there and start. So a lot of people go into things naive when we talk about business growth, but that ties into education. The number one thing that I think we got to address is real property-based tax funding, real estate tax-based funding for schools. If you look back at the 50s and 60s and before that, you had just segregated schools. And then after that, you had busing. And then after that, you had what was called redlining, which is, you know, certain people live in this area and certain people live in this area. And since then, we've always kind of been trapped. And what happens is when the real property taxes are what funds the schools, people with means, regardless of race, move to the areas where the schools are better, which then leads to the property values going up, which then leads to more people with means going in that area. Right now, Meriwether-Lewis over in Ivy has one black kid in it, 389 students. It didn't used to be like that 10, 20 years ago. But over time, it's a very expensive area. All the teachers' assistants are like professors and doctors and whatever, and they don't even work anymore. Maybe they're stay at home, what have you, they're retired, but at the end of the day, they got the means to be able to have the attention. They call it a public-private because of how much money is in that one district's system. Meanwhile, folks without means might not be able to get out of their particular school if it's a failing school. Maybe they lose accreditation. What I would like to see is education savings accounts come in, where if you are at a failing school, if your school has a racial achievement gap above a certain rate, if you are got bad graduation rates, if you're at risk, if you've got behavioral issues, special needs, or you're 300% below the poverty line, a certain amount of funds are going into an account where you could go to a different school if you wanted to. It could be another public school, it could be a private school, it could be a charter school. We have artificially low amount of, we only have 8 charters in Virginia. There are more charters in Washington, D.C. than there are in the Commonwealth of Virginia. There's a way to fix that, and that's really down in the weeds, but it's a relatively easy fix. School boards have unilateral autonomy to dictate whether a charter is granted or not. I think at a certain point, if the school board doesn't like competition, they're going to say no. That's why we only have 8. I think somebody else should be able to determine whether or not you get that charter school. But I would like to see the funds used, and it doesn't mean you have to even leave your school. Maybe you're going to use that funds for pre-K. Maybe you're going to use those funds for supplies or tutoring, or over time, if you never spend them, maybe it'll help offset some college or vocational training, things of that nature. I want it to compound, and I think those funds can come from alternative revenue sources. We were talking about cannabis earlier. There's other sources. I mean, they say we lose $3 billion a year in revenue to gaming that takes place in our surrounding states. Sports and poker by itself would probably give us $400 million a year in additional revenue. I would gladly put that into education savings accounts for the people I just described so that they can use it for other means. If the lottery is supposed to be funding our teachers, I think poker and sports could easily be funding education savings accounts for people that really need it. And then as far as the SOLs, yeah, you gotta do less testing, less routine. We should have, I think if the school passes at certain rates for a certain period of time, they should probably be able to power down how many times they take those tests. I think the curriculum needs to be more project-based learning rather than just rote facts. I mean, right now, if you memorize a sheet of facts, you didn't learn anything. You gotta learn how to learn. And then finally, skills. I know I mentioned that earlier. I would love to hear from folks that have started their own businesses. You know, any insight, any questions, any thoughts y'all have of how it could be easier to do what it is y'all do. You know, if you're a minority business owner, whether you're a startup or you've been in business for 20 years, how can it be easier for somebody who is 24 to enter into the market, and what is it that we can do from the state level to help? We're not going to have all the answers. Sometimes there's things that we got to hear.
Well, I kind of just wanted to share my personal story on not school choice, but just our movement towards standardized testing. And being from Petersburg, we only have one high school, one middle school, a couple of different elementary schools, but I really start hearing about SOLs around second and third grade. I think we are in at a good age that we actually live through, this the SOL times. But I went to Petersburg and we weren't accredited probably my whole career in K-12. I was in the third grade at Robert E. Lee Elementary School. That's the old name now, which it needs to be changed back if you ask me. But I was at Robert E. Lee Elementary School, and I hear about this SOLs. It's so important. You gotta pass the test. You gotta pass the test. And you can fail. And basically, I heard that every single year till I graduated. And I worked at Denny's restaurant, right? And I worked as a server. It was in the middle of the Tri-Cities is what we call it. So we got the employees from every different high school in the area, every different city. So a lot of them will come to the Petersburg students and say, is your diploma going to even mean anything? Like, what could you do with it? I didn't actually know how to answer that. I guess, I'm going off to college, so I don't think any college is denying students because they come from an unaccredited school and didn't pass the SOL. But anyway, I graduated, and that was hard. Like, it was hard on me mentally to hear, like, you're going to school for no reason, which is what we heard 4 years of high school. Like, why are you even going to school? Your diploma's not going to do anything. So I graduated, I went off to college, and I'm where I am now. I think I have a quality education. I look back at my high school education, or my public education, and I do wish that, it was a better learning environment and it was a different curriculum. It wasn't so standard learning to the SOLs. But something that I appreciate, I was enrolled in dual enrollment, so I knocked off a whole semester of college while I was in high school. Did not have to pay. I didn't have to take a test as you would in AP classes to receive that credit. So I would say we need to expand programs within high school to make a higher education more affordable and more accessible to students that are still in might be in the low income environment and have to go to high school that they're zoned in. Of course, skills is what we need to put back into the students so that they can actually have something to start a business with. I talk to a lot of people in Petersburg and around Petersburg, and they say, well, I want to be a business owner. I think that, I see all these people starting businesses and I want to, take control of my own economic situation. And I say, you should. But I don't know what I'm going to do. And that would not be the case if they graduated with a skill, if they knew how to do flooring, or if they knew how to code, or some of the other special skills that you may learn in carpentry. They can just, we help them apply for a business license and apply to take or even pay for them to take the test while they're in their senior year or junior year if they completed the courses, so that they can receive their license and actually go ahead and take your skills straight to the market, start your business. You have something, and if you want to expand from there, or if you want to change to something else, at least you have the entrepreneurial experience now that you're not as scared to go out and, jump off that cliff and start your business.
Thank you. You're an attorney, so you know and understand that there's a difference between the letter of the law, the spirit of the law, and who that applies to. How would you really address things like legalization of marijuana? Because as a veteran, that's not something that's accessible to me in this state, but it has been accessible to me in other states. And it has completely changed my life because I am no longer over-medicated. I literally had a box of 26 medications I had to take per day to wake up, to go to sleep, to be free of pain, to be free of, to have energy. But they were all medications that are now considered a plague on our society, like opiates. Many of my other fellow veterans are addicted to opiates because we don't have access to something that's not addictive. So my question to you is, as an attorney, the letter of the law, the spirit of the law, and who it applies to, because we also know that disproportionately black and brown people are convicted for marijuana offenses for less than an ounce for the same substance that people are making billions off of in cash right now. So what does that stand in Virginia for both of you?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because that brings in the what's criminalized and what's a mental health issue, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you that, first of all, I 100% think it should be legalized. I worked on Capitol Hill. I was legislative director for our past congressman, and within the second month we introduced the most aggressive cannabis law in the country, and he was a Republican. It's called the Ending Federal Marijuana Prohibition Act. And what it would do is it would federally decrim, so that it's up to the states to figure out what they want to do. Because the federal government is still overlooking it all, even the states that legalize it's creating this gray market out there. And I don't care though, I still think Virginia needs to legalize it. I'm not going to wait for the feds to do it. Okay, my opponent has said in town halls, oh, well, until the feds do it, we're not going to do it. That's wrong. It needs to be legalized now. Now, to your point about the benefits, we've seen in Colorado, opioid-related overdoses are 40% down. People used to call it a gateway drug, but I've coined the phrase that it's an exit drug. It is a way to pull people off. It's natural, not synthetic. And when people want to talk about the mental health system, I think that there are side effects to mixing a lot of these things that is not being tested, and the pharmaceutical industry probably doesn't want to test the difference.
Mental and physical health, because it's not just mental health.
Right.
It's also physical pain that's not being addressed.
And kidneys, and I mean, it really tears you up to have all these synthetics. This is something that, from a medicinal side, everyone says, oh, well, I proved it for medicinal. Just do the whole thing. Just go full distance. And plus, we were talking about earlier, I don't know if I mentioned it here, but earlier in an interview, we spent $63 million the last year on 29,000 arrests on marijuana. It was a 20-year high. Meanwhile, had they sold that same amount, we probably would have earned $200 million in revenue. So that's a shift of $263 million in a year. In a balanced budget state, that would pay for body cams to go in every unit in the Commonwealth in 1 year, and to be able to do in-camera interrogations for all violent crimes. In 1 year, we'd be able to pay all that. Year over year, that's an annual thing. In a balanced budget state, $263 million is like finding gold. And you can sit there and subsidize a lot of positive things. And of course, I also personally think that the record should be expunged if you've been found guilty of a marijuana-related crime. Some people say, no, it's still a sign that you were violating the law, but if the law's bad, we need to come back. If it's worth taking off the books, I think the crime in the past should be worth taking off.
But people are making millions off it now that don't look like the people that were convicted.
Of course, yeah, they're all venture capitalists sitting around in a boardroom going on yacht. Meanwhile, the same person in Virginia is subject to 5 to 10 years. So I think it's abhorrent, it's antiquated, and then of course a huge big component is the jobs. Look at the jobs. You're from Petersburg, right? South side, everything south of Richmond and west. I mean, this district I'm running for is the second most rural district in Virginia. We're in Charlottesville, we don't really see that, but you drive 10 minutes and you're in the fields, right, as far as growing stuff. Hemp is already now in Virginia. 1,000 farmers have tried to go online in the past 2 months as far as being just grow hemp. That's industrial hemp. The most medicinal component in it is CBD, but from a THC component, right? It's a UVA, exactly. And THC, you put that on top of the market, it's just going to blow up. And these are jobs. These are jobs for everybody, regardless of race. These are ag jobs. Ag jobs can become very good, and then it turns into manufacturing jobs. And
it also opens up a huge market for the disabled.
Exactly.
This is what a lot of people don't understand. It opens up a huge market for the disabled that otherwise cannot function because they've been prescribed drugs that leave them incapacitated and unable to think. It's so much broader than what we're seeing, and because I've lived all over the country, I see and I understand how this works into the communities in which I live, and I'm not seeing the response from government. So that's what I'm asking of you. What is your response going to be?
Well, he said it's the #1 bill for him, and I mean, I've already committed to a #1 bill, but in my heart, it's way up there.
You said the spirit of the law, the letter of the law, who it applies to.
Yes.
So you see different states having different letter of the law, right? In that state, the spirit of the law would be, I would say, the federal government. Yes, it's still banned on a federal level, but in order for them to allow all of this interstate commerce when it comes to marijuana, you can kind of see them easing off regulating marijuana, even at the federal level. Even the TSA, I think, don't. They might see a little bit of marijuana in your bag and they won't mess with it because they understand. You know, if the states legalize it, you know, it would be kind of be unfair to just watch somebody cross the street and say, "Hey, we got you now." You know, so yes, it's very, very important to make sure that when it comes to the letter of the law and on the books, we try to take away as much discretion as possible to discriminate. But it is true in America that, or in our political system, that law usually catches up with the custom of the people. So not only am I saying I am going to hold out until we seriously address legalization of marijuana, even me, running as a 29-year-old black person from Petersburg, having this as my priority issue where I could stay away from it and say, no, I don't want to, you know, feed into the stigma. No, I actually want to change the stigma. So what I need to do is introduce myself as a candidate for Senate and tell them I believe in the legalization of marijuana. You might even can pull out of me that I smoke it every once in a while. but if I say that, but see, that's the point. Why that when it should be considered acceptable?
Right.
So,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna answer follow-up questions on that, but I do enjoy marijuana.
So I know we have time for one more question, but I definitely wanted to follow up on that too. If legalization seems to be too hard at first, what about classifying it as a mental illness like we do with opioids? Is some of the street drugs that get criminalized, should they be looked at from a mental standpoint?
Well, it's not going to happen.
Well, you gotta look at
It's a different conversation.
and you gotta also look at the money involved in it.
Exactly.
Right.
If you go mental, if you struggle with mental health, then where's the focus going to be mental health? If you look at the benefits of job, money, job, and physical health and all that, you start looking at the money, it's all about money when it comes down to that. So we can say, listen, we spending this much money to incarcerate people for marijuana. We got the potential to build this much money in those poor areas for marijuana. Do the math. This is what we're going to be. You do the math. And we're going to resolve a majority of the problems that you hear. The physical, or just off of the ability for, listen, anybody from this area right here knows Schuyler is been the prominent place for marijuana for as long as I've never been to Schuyler, haven't seen it, but I will tell you that Schuyler is going 29 something. Schuyler has been prominent since I was a little kid. You would hear it. Schuyler Skunk, get ready to come. The money that they make off of Schuyler Skunk across the country has been going on since I was a child. And they still making that money. Let's think about it. And so several years ago, they went through and swooped through and destroyed a large acreage of that for the sake of a bus. But let's think about it. If that money was turned over into revenue, how much money this little area right here could produce in terms of marijuana? We're not even talking about the whole state. There are not a lot of areas in Virginia that can produce marijuana like the area we live in. We get 4 seasons. All four. So you're going to get the transitions. And so once you start talking about that, most people don't look at it, but it comes down to dollars and cents.
And it does change the quality.
And right now, the dollars and cents is incarcerating you because you owe me fines. I get your product. I hope I get bust because I can get your money back, and then we can flip that over. If you just go ahead and let that go, you're going to make twice as much as you made in the billions of dollars.
I'll note one thing there too. It's not just the money in the jails and incarceration. It's the people that have been affected have usually lost the rights to be able to mobilize and speak. Meaning the ones who aren't affected. Look, you can walk into a lot of gated communities here in the area, and there's plenty of illegal substance abuse taking place. But they're not the ones getting stopped because they're not in the areas that are getting over-policed, so they're not the ones that are losing their rights. They're not the ones that are going to speak up about it because they're like, I get to live fine, you don't. The pharmaceutical industry, too, though, is the one that stands to lose the most. You were talking about the 29 different drugs or 26 different drugs. They're going to see their profit margins really cut if you get to go grow your own medicine in your backyard.
That's true.
And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. And I'll say this and wrap, I know that we got to wrap up here. I'm going to bring it all the way home. We're here running as independents. That's a big risk. We don't get the institutional support. A lot of people are wary of not voting in the E or voting with the R next to their name. We're not getting all this traditional donations. And we're a threat to the institutional donor class. Because like he said, he's a wild card only on behalf of his constituents, you know? I'm sitting here saying I will leverage our stuff in order to achieve. We got to break out of the mold of what the corporations have been telling us to do. Because I'll say this about my opponent, and probably applies to his. If change was going to happen, it would have already happened. He's been in office for 30 years. If he was going to do it, he would have done it. I'm at least going to go in there and beat my head against the wall until it happens or I'm out. Okay? And I'm not seeing that happen in my race. I don't think you're going to see it in his race. But I'm going to end it in that and say I agree with everything that's been said there. I know we went from education to marijuana real quick, but we can pay for education with those revenues. So there.
And to go back to your question, I do want to say it is important for us to address, in addition to the legalization of marijuana when we approach criminal justice reform, we do need to look at decriminalization of all the other drugs besides marijuana, all the other street drugs. I think that it would be, we would fare better if we look at each situation as a mental health issue or a behavioral health issue, so that we can give them the help they need for addiction services instead of, locking them up. It's not only marijuana. We just don't want to focus on a drug that might be negatively affect one community over the other. We need to look at all drugs and say, hey, if addiction is a mental health issue, why would we criminalize a sickness?
Right.
Why wasn't this an issue back in the 80s when crack took neighborhood?
That's a whole nother animal.
You're right. I mean, you get it.
I do, but that's a whole nother situation. That's a whole nother animal.
You said this bill, like, when is the book on show?
Yeah.
That's what the boys are, like you said.
So, I'm sorry. So we have time for one more?
That'd be quick.
Yeah. All right. So this is
going to come in and kick us all out. Just real quickly, since y'all are independents and if everybody in this room is going to go out and go to bat for you guys, we've heard a lot about what y'all stand for, what y'all want to fight for, but you're both running against guys who, in Elliott's case, have been in office for 30 plus years. In your case, has a very interesting background. So can you guys answer a little bit to where's some stark contrast between you and your candidates? Be honest with what we talked about. I know in your case, Elliott, death penalty is big on you, and with Craig Eves, you got the guy who wants to execute minors. So I know across the board, there's got to be some stark differences. If you guys just take a few minutes and mention a few of those.
I guess I'll start off by saying I actually live in that district that I'm seeking to represent. And not only that, if you know my heart, if you know me, you'll find out quickly. What I love is my hometown of Petersburg. You cannot say, and I know we have issues and things that we need to improve on, but you cannot convince me to think anything really negatively about my city. It's just how I was raised. I loved everything about it. Joe is my opponent. He does not understand my city. He came key hotlines to be able to run for this district just because he saw it as an opportunity, and he sought to take advantage of my city and try to, garner votes. But I know that he won't do that.
He's got a history in representing government, correct?
He does have a history of representing Henrico, which is about 30 minutes away from Petersburg, and we do face different issues, even though our demographics are similar. He has many run-ins with the law. But you know, I had to feed myself, so I'm not. But as far as differences is concerned, I am fighting for the people. That I can only tell you the truth right now. He's not going to fight for the people. He's going to fight for himself. He's going to fight, and he's going to fight for himself. I'm going to fight for my community. I don't need to fight for myself. I don't need to gain a seat in the General Assembly or any political office in order for me to think of myself as being successful. I think that I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I think I can get a decent job. I can move away and I can live a good life. But I look back at everybody I grew up with, my peers that I graduated with, and every single week is a new news story about one of my classmates dying. It's hard on me because I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how they're going to survive if they're not given the tools to go out and start their own businesses. Because I know they're good people, I know they're hustlers just like I am. They might not have gone on and took advantage of a higher education or whatnot, but I don't think that should really lessen their voice in our political process. So what I would say is my main difference between me and my opponent is I am a champion for the people. Whether I get into office or not, I'm always going to be a champion for my community.
All right, I'm going to try to keep mine brief because schedule's placed till 6 and it's almost 6:30. So, the contrast between me and my opponent and myself. My opponent actually, I'll just compare my opponent's record with my opponent's record. That's the thing. Having been in office for 30 years, he flip-flopped on some major issues. People forget he was very against gay marriage in Virginia. Took out a full-page ad out in the western portion of the district that said no special rights for gays. And then voted for the amendment to be able to get into the Constitution and make it same-sex only. At a time when his party was raising hell about that. I mean, he was involved in gubernatorial primaries and they wanted him further left, and he wouldn't budge. Now he says he shifted, but I think Justice Kennedy made him shift, and the Supreme Court spoke. That's not the type of leadership people are looking for. I don't care what you do. 2 consenting adults, I don't care what you do. Okay? Government doesn't need to be involved in that space. You can look at the death penalty. You mentioned that when he was running for Attorney General. He wanted to expand the use of the death penalty and thought that juveniles should still be subject to the death penalty, which is historically probably one of the most racist forms of government oppression in the history of the United States. And now he says he flipped on the issue. Well, he flipped on the issue because the Supreme Court made him flip on the issue. Okay? So unless we were asking for the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court to be running the 25th District, you're not getting leadership. People talk about the statues. He was the patron to make it so that cities can't remove the statues. So everyone wants to pigeonhole one side of the issue when it's in reality it wouldn't have happened if he wasn't championing that. $110,000 from Dominion over his career. I'm happy to see that he's not taking money now when he's running against an independent, but at the end of the day, he needs to send that money back, if that's what he's being honest about. When people in his district, you don't get the Atlantic Coast Pipeline without cutting right through our district. West Virginia to Nelson County, that's right through. Voted to ban marijuana in Virginia. I'm very pro-Second Amendment, but only one of it, and I get a lot of heat for it here in Charlottesville, but only one candidate ever got the NRA endorsement. And it's my opponent. So, there's a huge contrast. Now, he's flipped on every single issue I've described, okay? But it was at a time when he was trying to be the highest executive officer on behalf of the law in Virginia. If he had made it into office like the way he asked the Commonwealth of Virginia to do, we would probably be looking in an area without same-sex marriage, with more aggressive death penalties. The ACP probably would have already been built, okay? And so in a progressive area like Charlottesville, my issue is I'm not as far progressive as the left would say. I'm more of a get the government out of everything. Not everything, but generally everything. It's how attached are people going to be to partisanship just for party's sake, or are they going to be willing to break out and speak on behalf of themselves and leverage that into a vote on November 5th? And I think they're going to do it. I trust this area. We've declared independence so many times before, I think we can do it in 42 days. So thank y'all for coming out. Thank you for holding this. This place has been open for 4 days now. So if you need an event, this is the place to come. Julian's got some awesome juices over here. I suggest the watermelon lime. It is fresh. And thank y'all for coming out. I'll let you finish it up.
Like you said, thank you all the hosts. Thank DJW as well for